Hey, everybody, and welcome to another deep dive.
I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, this one's going to be really interesting. We are heading all the way to southern Peru today.
The Nazca Desert, one of the driest places on Earth.
That's right. It's the home of those massive, head-scratching geoglyphs. You know, the ones that look like a giant prehistoric doodle pad?
The Nazca
The
Lines.
Nazca Lines. And these things are so big, you can really only see them from the sky.
That's right. Commercial pilots in the 1920s were the first ones to really notice them.
Yeah, just imagine you're flying a plane and you look down and you see this giant monkey or hummingbird just etched into the desert floor.
Or a spider or a killer whale, you know?
So many theories, so many ideas about what these lines could be. We've got everything from ancient astronomical calendars to alien landing strips to messages to the gods. I mean, seriously, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, it's been a subject of fascination for researchers and the public alike for decades now.
Absolutely. So
Yep.
today we're going to take a deep dive into everything we know about the Nazca Lines, from the science to the speculation to the just plain weird.
Let's get right into it.
All right, so let's start with the basics.
The Nazca Lines are located in the Nazca Desert in southern Peru, as we mentioned, one of the driest places in the world.
Yep, and there are hundreds of these geoglyphs spread out over 400 square miles.
They depict a wide variety of figures, everything from simple lines and geometric shapes to complex representations of animals and plants.
You mentioned some animals. Give us some more examples.
Well, you've got your monkey, your hummingbird, a spider, a killer whale, a dog, a pelican.
I feel like we should get T-shirts made, I Heart Nazca Lines with like all those animals on it.
That's a great idea.
People would stop us on the street and be like, what are those?
We could start a whole movement.
Right, like free the Nazca Lines or something like that. Anyway, before we get too sidetracked, let's talk about how these lines were actually made. I mean, we're talking about a time long before bulldozers and GPS.
Exactly. The technique they use is actually remarkably simple.
Well, don't leave us in suspense. Tell us.
They essentially just removed the top layer of dark pebbles to reveal the lighter colored soil underneath.
Like a giant scratch-off ticket.
Kind of, except instead of winning a couple of bucks, you get a giant hummingbird.
That's still pretty cool, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the precision and patience required to create these massive figures.
Oh, absolutely. And they didn't just eyeball it either.
They had, some sort of ancient protractor or something.
They used surveying tools, simple ones, but they were called tupos, basically long poles, maybe with ropes attached. They used these to create straight lines and measure distances.
So basically some seriously skilled ancient engineers.
Without a doubt.
And speaking of engineering, let's not forget the artistry involved. I mean, have you seen the detail in some of these geoglyphs?
Oh, it's amazing the way they captured the essence of these creatures with just lines and shapes. Really remarkable.
Yeah, it's not just like stick figures in the sand. We're talking about some pretty sophisticated artwork.
And on a massive scale.
Exactly, and that brings us to the million-dollar question. What were these geoglyphs actually? What was their purpose?
That's the big mystery, isn't it? And one that has fueled countless theories and debates over the years.
Okay, so let's dive into those theories. Shall we give me the rundown of the most popular ones?
Well, one of the most prominent theories is that the Nazca Lines were a giant astronomical calendar used to track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, these lines are clearly aligned with certain celestial events.
Exactly. There's a German mathematician and archaeologist named Maria Reiche who dedicated her life to studying the Nazca Lines.
She's like the godmother of Nazca Lines research.
She was convinced that the lines were a celestial calendar, and her research has revealed some interesting correlations between certain geoglyphs and solstices and equinoxes.
So like the giant hummingbird is pointing to where the sun rises on the summer solstice or something like that.
It's a possibility.
Okay, I like that theory. It's like ancient people's way of keeping track of time and the seasons. But I have to ask, what about the alien theory? I mean, come on. Giant figures visible only from the sky. It's got to be aliens, right?
I knew you were going to go there. The alien theory is definitely a popular one, and it's fueled by the fact that these lines are best seen from above.
Right. It's like they were trying to signal someone up there.
But while it's a fun theory, there's really no solid evidence to support it.
Okay, fine. But I'm still not ruling it out completely. Aliens or no aliens, there's no denying that the Nazca Lines are an incredible feat of engineering and artistry, and they continue to fascinate and intrigue us to this day.
And that's what makes them so captivating.
All right, so we've got astronomical calendars, we've got aliens, but there are other theories too, right?
Oh yeah, there are plenty more.
Hit me with them.
So another theory suggests that the Nazca Lines were sacred pathways used for ceremonial processions.
Okay, so like imagine a group of people walking along the lines of a giant hummingbird as part of a religious ritual.
Exactly. It's thought that these processions may have been led by priests or shamans and involved music dancing and offerings to the gods.
And maybe some really cool costumes.
I'm sure they were styling.
So they were basically strutting their stuff for the guides.
Something like that.
That's a pretty cool theory. I can definitely picture it now. Ancient people walking these sacred pathways under the desert sun. It's a really powerful image.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of ritual and ceremony in their culture.
And speaking of ritual, there's also the idea that the Nazca Lines were connected to a lost city called Kawachi.
Kawachi is believed to have been a major religious center for the Nazca people dedicated to ceremonial activities.
So maybe the lines were like a giant map guiding pilgrims to this sacred site.
It's a possibility, and it would explain why some of the lines seem to converge at certain points.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got astronomical calendars, we've got sacred pathways, we've got a lost city, and of course we've got aliens all vying for a place in the Nazca Lines mystery.
It's a pretty impressive lineup.
It really is. And the best part is we still don't know for sure what the answer is.
That's the beauty of it.
Exactly. It keeps us guessing, it keeps us exploring, and it keeps us coming back for more.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll finally crack the code and uncover the true meaning of the Nazca Lines.
Or maybe the mystery will live on forever.
Either way, it's a pretty incredible legacy to leave behind.
Absolutely. So there you have it, folks. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Nazca Lines, and maybe even a few things you didn't.
It's a mystery for the ages.
And one that we'll continue to explore and ponder for years to come.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Now, excuse me, I'm going to go online and order that Nazca Lines t-shirt.
I'm right behind you. All right, so we've talked about astronomical calendars and sacred pathways.
And of course, we had to throw in some aliens for good measure.
Naturally, but let's not forget that the Nazca people were incredibly resourceful and practical.
Right, they had to be to survive in such a harsh desert environment.
Exactly. So what if those lines weren't just about the stars or the gods?
What if they were about something a little more down to earth?
Like water.
Water. Okay, so are we saying that the Nazca Lines are a giant map of underground water sources?
Some researchers believe that's a possibility.
That's pretty wild. I mean, how would they even know where the water was?
Well, remember, the Nazca people were masters of water management. They developed sophisticated irrigation systems like the Puquios.
Those underground tunnels that channeled water from the Andes Mountains.
Exactly. They had an incredible understanding of the desert and its hidden resources.
So maybe they just took their knowledge of water and put it on a much grander scale.
Kind of like a giant treasure map for H2O.
Okay, I like that theory. It's practical, it's ingenious,
That's right.
and it makes total sense given their environment.
Plus, it doesn't rule out the other theories. Remember, we talked about how the lines could have served multiple purposes?
Right, so maybe they were using the lines for ceremonial processions while also following them to find water.
Multitasking at its finest.
Exactly. Ancient people were way ahead of their time.
Absolutely. All right, now, are you ready for another theory?
Hit me with it. I'm feeling adventurous.
Okay, so what if the Nazca Lines weren't meant for earthly eyes at all?
Okay, I'm intrigued. Go on.
What if they were messages to the gods?
Messages to the gods like giant cosmic billboards.
Exactly. Imagine the Nazca people creating these massive geoglyphs in the hopes that the gods would look down from the heavens and see them.
I'd be like, hey, nice hummingbird. You guys are all right.
Well, maybe more like, please send rain or bless our crops.
Yeah, I guess that makes more sense. But still, it's a pretty bold move, right? Like, hey, gods, check out this giant spider we made just for you.
It definitely shows a certain level of devotion.
Or maybe just a really good sense of humor.
Maybe they were just trying to get the gods' attention.
Like, hey, up here, remember us down here in the desert.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it worked.
Maybe that's why they were able to survive in such a challenging environment.
Divine intervention through geoglyphs.
It's a possibility. All right, so we've got water maps, we've got messages to the gods. What else you got?
Well, there's always the alien theory.
I knew you couldn't resist bringing that back.
Hey, it's a classic for a reason.
So are we back to thinking that those lines were landing strips for UFOs?
Well, some people believe that the figures themselves might represent alien beings.
I mean, have you seen that monkey? It does look a little otherworldly.
And the spider with all those extra legs, it's not your typical Earth spider.
Okay, so maybe ancient astronauts visited the Nazca people and inspired them to create these amazing works of art.
Or maybe they just left behind a few doodles.
Alien graffiti. Now, that's a theory I haven't heard before.
Well, there's a first time for everything.
All right, so we've got astronomical calendars, sacred pathways, water maps, messages to the gods, alien landing strips, and now alien graffiti.
It's a pretty wild mix.
It really is. And the best part is we still don't know for sure what the answer is.
Maybe it's a combination of all these things.
Or maybe it's something we haven't even thought of yet.
That's what keeps this mystery so intriguing.
Absolutely. All right, so where do we go from here?
Well, I think it's time to introduce another element to this puzzle.
Yeah, lay it on me.
Have you ever heard of the Ica stones?
Ica stones. Those sound familiar, but I can't quite place them.
They were discovered in the Ica region of Peru, not too far from the Nazca Lines.
Okay.
And they're covered in intricate carvings that depict some pretty mind-boggling scenes.
Like what kind of scenes?
Well, some of the carvings seem to show advanced technology, medical procedures, and even dinosaurs.
Dinosaur? Wait, are we saying that the Nazca people were hanging out with T-Rex?
Well, the Ica stones have been a subject of much debate.
I bet.
Some people believe they are authentic artifacts from a lost advanced civilization that predates the Inca, while others think they're modern forgeries.
So are we looking at genuine evidence of a technologically advanced ancient culture or a really elaborate tourist trap?
That's the million-dollar question, and one that researchers are still trying to answer.
So what kind of advanced technology are we talking about here? Give me the details.
Well, some of the carvings seem to show people using telescopes, performing brain surgery, and even flying in what appear to be aircraft.
Brain surgery, that's pretty advanced. I mean, I can barely change a light bulb.
Right, it's definitely not something you would expect to see from a culture that supposedly didn't even have the wheel.
So maybe the Ica stones are proof that ancient people were way more sophisticated than we give them credit for.
It's a possibility, and then there's the whole dinosaur thing.
Yeah, how do we explain that?
Well, some proponents of the Ica stones argue that they depict humans and dinosaurs coexisting.
Which would mean that everything we know about the timeline of history is wrong.
It's a pretty radical idea.
No kidding. So are we saying that Jurassic Park was actually a documentary?
I wouldn't go that far, but it's definitely a theory that sparks the imagination.
Right. My head is officially spinning. But before we get completely lost in a world of ancient brain surgeons and flying dinosaurs, let's bring this back to the Nazca Lines.
Good idea. We don't want to get too sidetracked.
So how do these Ica stones connect to the Nazca Lines?
Well, it's all about location and a potential shared mythology. Remember those Viracochas we talked about?
Those powerful, godlike beings.
Exactly. Well, the Ica stones depict beings that resemble the Viracochas, and some researchers believe that the Nazca Lines were created to honor or communicate with these beings.
Okay, so we've got these Inca stones potentially depicting advanced technology and maybe even dinosaurs, and a possible connection to the Nazca Lines through this shared Viracocha mythology.
It's a pretty intriguing link.
It really is, and it just adds another layer of mystery to this already enigmatic subject.
Exactly. The Nazca Lines and the Ica stones are like two pieces of a giant puzzle that we're still trying to put together.
And who knows what other pieces might be out there just waiting to be discovered.
The possibilities are endless.
And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating.
Absolutely. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
We've gone from astronomical calendars to water maps to alien graffiti to brain surgery and dinosaurs.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has, but I think we've just scratched the surface of the Nazca Lines mystery.
There's still so much more to explore.
And we'll definitely be diving deeper into this and other mind-blowing mysteries in future episodes.
So stay tuned. All right, so last time we left off talking about the Ica stones and their potential connection to the Nazca Lines.
Yeah, those stones with the carvings of what looked like advanced tech brain surgery and even dinosaurs.
Precisely, those carvings have sparked a lot of debate about whether they represent authentic artifacts or cleverly crafted hoaxes.
Yeah, and if they are authentic, it would suggest a level of knowledge and sophistication that just doesn't fit with what we think we know about the ancient world.
Right. Those intricate carvings seem to show people using telescopes, doing brain surgery, and even flying in something resembling an aircraft.
I still can't get over that brain surgery thing. I mean, I can barely operate a microwave.
It definitely makes you wonder about the possibilities, right? And then there's the whole dinosaur thing.
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow, unless those dinosaurs were really good at playing hide and seek for millions of years.
Well, some proponents of the Ica stones claim that they depict humans and dinosaurs coexisting.
But that would mean our understanding of the timeline of history is way off.
It's a radical idea for sure, but one that some people find compelling.
It definitely makes you think outside the box, that's for sure. All right, so we've got these Ica stones potentially depicting advanced technology and maybe even dinosaurs, and a possible link to the Nazca Lines through this shared Viracocha mythology.
And remember, the Ica region is also home to the Paracas Candelabra, that giant geoglyph etched into the hillside overlooking the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, that one's a mystery too. Some say it was a navigational aid for sailors. Others think it's a symbol of the Viracocha.
So we've got another giant geoglyph, another connection to the Viracochas. It's almost like we're seeing a pattern here.
Right. It's like the Viracochas were leaving their mark all over Peru.
Exactly. And it all ties back to that question of whether these beings were simply wise humans or something more otherworldly.
Okay, but what if we step back for a moment and consider a simpler explanation? What if the Nazca Lines and these other enigmatic sites were created not by aliens or super beings, but by regular people?
What if it was just human ingenuity and artistry at play?
Right, maybe we underestimate what ancient people were capable of. Maybe they were driven by a deep connection to the cosmos, a desire to understand their place in the universe.
Or maybe they just wanted to create something beautiful, something that would last for generations.
I mean, think about it. The pyramids of Egypt, the Great Wall of China, these were all built by humans with the technology available to them at the time.
So why couldn't the Nazca Lines be another example of human achievement on a grand scale?
Exactly. Maybe the answer has been staring us in the face all along.
It's a possibility worth considering.
All right, so where does that leave us with the Nazca Lines?
Well, we've explored a ton of theories ranging from the practical to the downright bizarre.
We've talked about astronomical calendars, sacred pathways, water maps, messages to the gods, alien landing strips, and even ancient brain surgeons.
And we've touched upon some fascinating connections between the Nazca Lines and other mysterious sites like the Ica stones and the Paracas candelabra.
It's been quite a journey.
And one that has hopefully expanded our understanding of the ancient world and the possibilities that lie within it.
I know I've learned a lot.
Me too.
But most importantly, I think this deep dive has reminded us that there's still so much we don't know about our planet and the people who came before us.
And that's okay, because the mystery is part of the allure.
It keeps us curious, it keeps us exploring, and it keeps us asking questions.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll finally unlock the secrets of the Nazca Lines. But even if we don't, the journey itself is what truly matters.
Well said. So, to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that sense of wonder alive.
And if you're looking for more mind-blowing mysteries to dive into, be sure to check out Mystery Universe's podcast series.
They've got some amazing deep dives into all sorts of fascinating historical and archaeological enigmas.
So if you enjoyed our exploration of the Nazca Lines, you'll definitely want to give them a listen.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mystery of the Nazca Lines. Until next time, stay curious.